Hello and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 4th of September 2017. This week we are going to run through a few pairs and see what's going on. I also had my charts marked off from the last symposium, so we're just going to have a look at the levels, or at least on this Aussie American dollar pair. I've been pretty busy kind of issuing dealing with the back end of for the new Pipnotic software. And so I haven't been able to, I haven't been very good at updating these levels. But what we have, I had this rectangle on my charts from the last symposium. Price left and we came back to this area. We had a nice bounce. And as expected, price came back the second time and went through it. So this area would have been dotted. I had the indicator drawn this, and this would, of course, made us a little bit cautious or reconsider buying here on the second approach. If we have a look left, you can see we had this continuation pattern here. Price tested it and price continued moving up from this. So that was interesting. If you look at this, this whole price structure was standing on this flagpole here. And at the time of this pullback, price had been back to this low, which means that ideally you don't want to be buying for a price any more expensive than the 78.70. And this is pretty much where price came to before it went. So this just means that we have demand. We tested the upper edge of demand. So we've cleared out the liquidity down to this area. And so the remaining liquidity is located below the low of this swing low here, which is just a very clear example of just here. Price poked into the area and we went north from there. So this is just a pretty good lesson, I think, in exactly that. So let's clear off the charts, and then we're going to do our analysis and see what's going on. So if we have a look on the weekly chart, you can see that we are struggling with this just here. So we tested it. We had some pretty nice push, pretty deep into it. And now price is accumulating kind of just below. We did have a pullback, and now price is slowly wriggling higher from that. So take that information down to the smaller time frames. We have this demand, which has now been tested, which means that we want to be very, very careful and maybe pass on another test of that. I wouldn't touch this because price has already moved roughly halfway through. So the liquidity available here in this little pocket is gone. So I'd feel pretty uncomfortable about taking that trade. Keep in mind that we are testing this area of weekly supply. So let's go and have a look at the weekly supply and see what it looks like on the smaller time frame. Thank you, Outlook. Meeting in half an hour. Better do this quick. So you can see that we have price moved higher, then we went down, and we kind of had higher lows and higher highs, and then price broke through. So we had a trend line break here, pretty clear trend line, look, maybe something like that, and price broke through it. And you can see that price came back previously to this level here. So we probably had some divergence on the currency strength histogram around here. So price went up and then we cut through it. So this tells us that we had divergence here. This area is untested, but price has already been back to this area here. So this would make me want to take the extreme highs of this area just here. So if I was going to take this, I wouldn't start selling now because we're poking into weekly supply. I would actually wait for price to come here, and I'd want my stop a little bit out of the box there. Definitely want it away above the highs here. This is because price came back to this level. We had a deeper poke into this level, and so price could easily react here, but it could also easily come as far back as the highs here. And so this would bring our attention to this over here, which is not very interesting, a little bit messy. And so, this is okay. This is a pretty mediocre trade, and I might just mark it off and not even trade it. So ideally, what I'd like to see is I'd like price to come up into this area, and then react and start moving down and start selling, because then we would be selling at weekly/daily supply here. And so we want this to start to break down. As a matter of fact, we've kind of already tested the area. I can see here the bottom of the the daily area, and this is where price had a retreat from where it had a retreat. And so I'm thinking, I mean, price is still kind of moving up and down pretty equally. There's a lot of balance in supply and demand, which I don't like. So there's no real bias for the time being. The only thing that we can see is that we are reacting in a weekly daily supply, which could maybe have price moving a little bit higher into this before it decides to move lower. But it'd be, I mean, taking any trades here simply on this test of here would simply be picking the top or the bottom, and I'm not normally a big fan of that. So I'd normally wait for price to figure out what it's going to do. Once this is gone, then I'd be pretty keen about selling, because price would have to, we've formed a high, a low, a lower high so far, and then if it moves down here, then we have a lower low, and then we have a daily downtrend, we have our downward sloping trend line. Then I would sell this the supply that took out this demand. But that's not what we have just yet. So if we go on the 4-hour chart and have a look, you can see that we have this area just up here. And price came back to this on the retest, so we had like the high and low, maybe probably at least a 79% retracement back up into this area, and then a slow retreat. But this is pretty efficient trading, how price is going down and up and down and up, and it's returning to the origin of the leg down each move. And so this is, again, this is pretty nice and efficient liquid trading. We currently have this little area just below price, which has been tested once, twice, 3 times. So this is probably not going to hold on the next test. And so if price has another wriggle up here and we see some really nice rejection, then I would look to sell somewhere towards the highs of this daily area here. But I would feel even more comfortable, of course, if we manage to move through this daily supply just here. But we'll have to wait and see. On the hourly chart, if you have a look, I mean, there's a lot going on. We've tested this a couple of times. Even on the daily chart, it's a little bit iffy. We do have this here, but price has already been back to this low here. Excuse me, so I wouldn't be too terribly comfortable about buying for a price any more expensive than the 79.18 area, because this is where price has been back to on the release. So you know what, I'm not going to touch the Aussie. I'm going to leave it alone and just wait for the supply and demand picture to change there on this 4-hour chart, or this daily chart, when price moves through this here. That would be great. Go to the Aussie CAD. I had this other rectangle marked off. It was from here, extended out into the future, and price did have a reaction here. We got about a 3 or 4 to 1, so really nice response. You can see that when price tested here, it went up to here, and this makes perfect sense because we had the green candle that left. We came up, we left. Then you ask yourself, I mean, how far back, how high did price get since the release from up here? Well, it got back to the highs here. So this would be a natural place to either sell or to get out of this trade. But looking at it, it's really ugly. It's very there's a lot of trading in and around. There's not it doesn't look like a whole lot of imbalance action going on in there. So I wouldn't have done this. I would have potentially taken this one here. I would have gone for the lows here, and I probably would have missed it, and then I would have taken it off. So I probably wouldn't have even been in this trade, simply because price didn't come back to this level here. But now it's been tested, so it's weak, and so I think it's difficult to justify continuing to buy for the time being. But we do have price wriggling around this area, so perhaps selling on an hourly supply back down would be okay. And for this, I'd consider, looking around somewhere up here, where the indicator has the box marked off. We have a look on the daily. Where are we? And we have some pretty nice rejection. You can see these pin bars up here, and then price has managed to move below this low, taking out this demand, daily demand. So we do have a high, low, lower high, and a lower low. Then price is starting to wriggle low. So if price manages to come all the way back up here, like we saw on the hourly chart, I would certainly consider taking a stab at that. But we'll have to wait and see. This is a very nice release, and when price sold off and we managed to wriggle higher, there's still quite a lot of liquidity available up in here. So price might actually come to the lows and then turn around from there, because this is kind of support, and now potentially resistance. So we have an area between this low here and the high here of bearish liquidity that I think might attract some selling. Have a look at the euro yen. What are we doing on the weekly chart? We're moving higher. We're moving into this weekly supply. And we're having a pretty good time at sticking up into that area, which is not good. So you can see that we poked into the area, the weekly area. Let's mark off the area, the edge of it, sorry, which is here. So we tested that. We go into the daily chart. We tested it here. Rejection, deeper push, rejection, but you can see that the lows are getting lower. So we have the highs are getting higher, but the lows are getting lower. And so we have kind of like a megaphone situation going there. So we're gonna have to see what happens. We still have this area, this price imbalance where price is currently standing on this. So I'd like if price came back down to here somewhere before it figured out what it was going to do. And so keep in mind we are testing weekly daily supply. But if you look at this, this is a pretty decent looking area, but there's a lot of efficient trading up here which I don't like. I really like this one here, but this is really far away. But if price manages to come back up here, I mean, I'm gonna certainly be looking to sell up at around this area here. Oops, around here. I think that's a pretty nice area, just there, like the low of this accumulation. So we'll put it like that. That's a pretty nice looking area. And a really nice release. You see we actually gap down, so we're probably going to see some reactions from around here, the 144.40ish area. The price, we're probably going to see some people looking to start to sell. So we definitely have something going on here. I think my position sizing is wrong. That's 1%. Okay, so yeah, so that's what we have there. You can see that price is wriggling north, and we would be kind of ultimately picking a top, but we would be doing that at supply here. But I wouldn't be very comfortable about selling up here. If we go to the 4-hour chart and have a look, here we can see that, I mean, price is really moving high. We do have this little area down here which looks okay. Let's have a look. You can see the price kind of wriggled, we accumulated, and we kind of came down, accumulated for one period, then we shot up. And so this is kind of fresh demand that was introduced at the end of this area of kind of bullish gliding accumulation, or whatever you want to call it. So price did manage to move up. We did have a lot of wicks to the downside, so we did have some selling pressure. So this is not like amazing demand down here, because price was able to kind of come down before it continued higher. And so, but looks, last time price came down to this level, the low of this one, we did see a lot of rejection. So I'm thinking that if price manages to come back down to here, there's going to be an even bigger interest in buying at a better price than this, which will be down here. So this might be certainly worth having a look at. So we can mark that one off just there, and then we can see. Look at the pound. We spoke about this last week. Got a trade in here, which is gone. So we tested it once. We got out an opposing supply around here. This is now gone. And so we'll remove these. But we still do have this area down here. And price has been back as far as here. And we had a really nice reaction. So we have price standing on this leg. And so you can mark off the low here, and then ask yourself, has price been back to this level before? No, it hasn't. This is a pretty nice fresh area here. So if we mark off this area here, like around this might be an interesting area to have a look at. And we'll put that in there quickly. Matter of fact, I'm gonna leave it in there for just for a couple of days and let it expire. 28. Good. Expire. And let it expire there. So the stop is 28.08. Okay, so this is like a 1-to-1 here, 1-to-2. We'll leave it like that. We don't know what the opposing supply looks like yet because we haven't got any until we get up to here. There's nothing really in here. This is nice. This is a nice area, but looking left, price has already been back to this area, so you wouldn't even want to start. You wouldn't even want to sell here. You would certainly look to start selling at from the highs here. So I think if you waited for this, you would probably find that price would relatively easily move through that. So I wouldn't touch that. But I like this one here, nice and fresh and untested. So this is definitely where I'll be looking to try and sell if price gets up there, which it probably will one day. That's pretty good there. Let's try the Aussie Yen. Okay, so if we go on the 4-hour chart, what's price doing? Are we moving higher or lower? We're kind of moving sideways. We go to the daily, we're wriggling higher. We do have this area down here which looks interesting. We zoom out, we're testing this big area here. Isn't it funny? I mean, if you look at this, the indicator found this area. I mean, I would never have drawn the area like this, but I mean the price came straight to it. It's funny, interesting. But we do have this one here, which is okay, but I don't like that. I would wait for price to come back down here and buy. So if we have a look here, good. We go down to the 4-hour and have a closer look. You can see that we've got this, not a whole lot of release there. Yeah, it's not very nice. Let's see if this looks better on the hourly. And we kind of have it like here, but I'm not. It's not nice. So we're not going to touch that. We need to see some really good demand like here. If we go back on here and sorry, on the daily chart, I'm just going to mark off this area. We're going to mark off just here, and then we're going to go down on the hourly. Come on, and then we're going to have a look at that area. So if we move in here, come on. Okay, as you can see, it looks like this. So price has actually already managed to swing back down to here. What it hasn't done is it has not been back to this area here. This is kind of a big one. It's like zoom in and have a look. Okay, so here we have the candle that left, the green candle, probably. Let's get the indicator to show it to us. Yes, here we have a green candle, and we have the accumulation as the body of this candle than the previous. Yes, yes, yes. So you'd actually end up drawing it like this. This would be your area of demand for this, like that. And I like that one better than I like the other ones, because price has already been back to this price level. Let me put this back to 0, because we know now. And so this is a pretty interesting area, just because the way kind of price kind of cut away. We do have some wicks on the bottom half. I would have been much more excited if they would look like this, where there's very small wicks to the bottom. But that's what we have to work with. And so it's kind of a take it or leave it. And here we have 4 candles of accumulation and release. The price kind of rallied, accumulated, went down, accumulated, and then went up. So this is a kind of a drop accumulation and then a release from the area. And that area looks okay, so we're going to mark off that area there like that, and then we'll go back to the 4-hour and the daily and see what it looks like there. Yeah, you can see it's just at the point where price broke away from, and we rallied, accumulated, then went north here. I don't like this too very much because it doesn't look very good on the smaller time frames, so it can always pay off to go to the smaller time frames and have a better look. So we won't do anything there. We'll wait for this and see what happens. And below that, I mean, there's a huge mess. And so, I mean, on that daily chart, I wouldn't do anything. Maybe on the 4-hour, there's something. We do have we do have this up here, the indicator, mark that off. We have this one here, but I don't like the price has already been up to this area, so I wouldn't want to sell for a price any cheaper than the highs of here. So the zone, it starts here and it goes up to here, and this is where the accumulation is, so this is definitely where I would like to look. And you can see the price has already been back up to this area, so you definitely want to be up in here. So for example, if your entry was to sell, let's say here, you'd want your stop to go kind of well above the area here. That looks a little bit better. We'll leave that on there and we'll see what happens. We're not, of course, paying too much attention to the trend here, but we would be selling a retracement to the highs, which would potentially be okay. Let's have a look at one more pair. Let's do maybe the Kiwi. You see what's going on here. Really nice test there, but I probably wouldn't have done this one because actually this high goes about the same height as here. Yeah, you mean the stop would have had protection. You could have put the stop above both of these highs and up here, and then you would have been just fine. So that one would have worked out. What I don't like is when price comes back, it rallies, it goes down, and rallies roughly up to the highs of the previous rally and then releases. But this is kind of a continuation pattern that we're testing the highs of before the release. So this is maybe a little bit different, technically speaking. So let's go on the daily chart, see what's going on. Here we have I like this because when this formed, price left. When price got up to it, almost got to the lows, then it left. So I'm thinking that there will be an even greater interest in selling if price manages to move above that. So if we go to the 4-hour chart, 4-hour chart, and have a look, you can see that this is actually where we are. It brings us up to this area here, and this is kind of a reaction to this. Tested a few times, we had a pretty nice release. The price has already been back quite a lot to that area there, and of course, I mean, as we've spoken about before, you can keep going back and go on forever, but ideally you want to find the areas that are good. Like, I mean, this breakaway I like. You don't want to see like price, you want to first of all you want to find the leg or the flagpole that the current price structure is hanging on. I mean, you could argue that that this price structure is hanging on this one, and it's been tested once, so this is a no-go. This is, you would not touch this. Then you would look, it'll bring your attention up to this, but then you go to the quality checklist. You say, has price been back to this before? Is it a parent or is it a child? Has price accumulated for a long period of time? And all of those questions would be answered negatively, meaning that this is a low quality area here. So yes, price could come here and it could react and it could go down and it could go 100 pips, but you have to kind of stick to the rules. You know, you have to make the parameters that you're allowed to operate within. Then you trade the trades that ensure a higher degree of probability for the trade to work, and not this kind of wishy-washy stuff like this. And so what we do have, we have this up here, which has not been tested. Pretty close. It's debatable, but that brings up to the 75.27. And so when you're looking at the trend here, you can see the price is moving lower. So you mark off the high here, then you have to go to have to scroll back or mark off the highs and ask yourself, has price been back to the area before? If it has, what was it reacting on? It was actually reacting at this. And so we can mark off this. This is a 4-hour level. We'll go like that. Go to the daily just to look. Actually, this is, wait a minute, what am I doing? The price has been through that. It didn't go back far enough, sorry. I'm going to keep going. I found the blue line. That's why I like these color-coded lines. They really make it easier. Okay, so here we have it. This is where price reacted. So price came back, price released, came back, told us where the edge of the area was once, twice. This is actually the third test of this area which managed to hold. And if you look left, we have this, which I really, really like very much. And no, it's gone. Okay, you can see we had a really nice reaction there, but price has already been back. This, okay, let's go above. I want to find out what price is reacting on. It's been tested. This is gone. So this is what we have above price here. And so there's no real beautiful areas of imbalance. We have this one. Let's see what it looks like. This price close to it. This looks okay. I like that because this is currently pretty far away from price, but it's an untested area. Price came into the area here, only just, and so I like this one. And so it enables you to kind of walk through all this wishy-washy stuff and find an area that'll have a high likelihood of holding, which is this one here. Really nice rejection. If price would have maybe come down and moved sideways and not poked back into it like that, that would have made this area even more attractive. But if you go to the hourly chart, on the other hand, then you have, of course, there's lots of stuff that you can have a look at. But the method is exactly the same. Let's do one more quickly before we wrap up. I've got a meeting here in 8 minutes. So if we have a look at this one here, let's have a look on the daily chart. Is price moving up or down? Well, it's kind of sideways. So if it's sideways, you have to go to the bigger time frame to assess. You can see we're pretty sideways on this one, even on here. We're kind of moving through the ranges. So we're moving between here and here. So that means that when price gets down to here, look to buy a demand that forms down here towards the bottoms. Or if price is on its way to the opposing side like so, then you could look to buy on its way to the opposing area, the opposing side of this this sideways channel, as you can see here. So if you go to the daily chart, knowing we should be buying, you can see that price has reacted on this. Very nice trade. We actually took this trade last week and we sold just up here. And price is reacting. We're kind of wriggling, we're fighting with this. But if you look a little bit lower, this whole price structure is standing on what? Well, here, this one, you can kind of consider these candles are related. So we have the open and the close up here and price goes up. And you can see that price has not been below here. So this would actually be a really nice area to buy, also because price gapped away from it. So I'm going to actually put an order on that. So 13.7 lots. I'm going to buy at 142.43. Stop at 141.39. 41.40. Round numbers. Go like that. What? Wow. That went all wrong, didn't it? Unbelievable. Right, let's go here. Let's see if we can make it work. So we're down 11. About a 1 to 1 there. Okay, so let's leave it at that. So yeah, good. So I like this one. Price gap to it. That looks pretty good. So we'll kind of leave it at that. And I've got a meeting in about 4 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap up and send this off. Another thing, I've created a chat room for us on Slack. So if you want to participate in the chat where I'll be throughout most of the day, just simply send me an email. I sent an email to quite a few of you to ask if you want to be invited to the meeting, and if you want to, you can simply accept the request, and then everything should be just fine. Otherwise, drop me an email, send me an email to my sha@pipnotic.com and ask and just say that you want to be a part of the chat room, and then I'll respond, and then we can kind of chit chat in there and maybe look at some levels in there. And also, if you have any general questions about the software, I think that'd be a really good place to do it. Also, there are some professional traders in there, and they can also share their insights and stuff like that as well. They're also using the software, and so there's a lot of experience to be gained by chatting in the room there. Good. I just noticed that the meeting that I said I had in 4 minutes a minute ago is actually not important. It's been moved to an hour and a half from now, so we can keep going for a little bit longer. Okay, so let's have a look at another pair. I'm kind of doing this one on the fly, so there's no one in the room with me, unfortunately. Let's have a look at this one, the euro. Actually, I know a gentleman who likes the pound yen, so we'll have a look at that. Look at this incredible gap lower. This is really asking us to have a good look in there. First of all, you got to look on the hourly chart. We're moving higher, so that should be a warning sign for selling. So you mark off the high, you go to the bigger time frame and say, what is it we're reacting on? We're actually reacting on this area of supply, this continuation pattern. This is the second test, once, twice, and so I'd be a little bit apprehensive about selling just up there. We did gap down, fair enough, but the area is not fresh. The area that is fresh is this up here. I like this. Again, we have this price structure. Where is price currently? It's here. What is price hanging on? It's hanging on a thread, price imbalance, the origin of which is just here. So this is the area that we want to look to start selling. Rather, you don't want to start selling for a price, any cheaper than the highs of the candles that are poking up into the area. So from the 143.30 up to the 14400 area. I like this one here. So let's have a look at that on the smaller time frame and see what it looks like. If we have a look, you can see that it looks like this. And so we have price came down, it went up, it came down, it went up, we tested the bottom here, and then it went kind of wriggled down. So we have the area like this. I'm just going to rename that so we get the indicator to change the color. So we have that on the 1 hour chart, and because they're pretty close, I would feel more comfortable taking the parent instead of the child down here. You could take this one, but then you would want to manage it a little bit more aggressively, or you would want to ensure that your stop was above the high here. And if you look at this, when this candle left, when price left here, we had this accumulation candle and price kind of went up there a little bit. Let me zoom in. Price went up to this price level here, so the highs. And this tells us that you don't want to be selling for a price any cheaper than the high of this candle here. And so you could have your entry here, but you'll want your stop above the highs here and ultimately above this high. Just here like that. That would be okay. If you go to the hourly chart and have an even closer look, we have this. There's no clarity. Let's go to the 15-minute chart. No clarity. You can see this is reacting on something. Let's move this like that. We'll mark off the high. Price is reacting on something in here. You can see also there are wicks here. 5 minutes. There it is. There it is, right there. You can see it. This is that little micro, tiny, teeny weeny area of supply. What does that mean? Well, that means that we have fresh supply up here, and ideally you would want to, for this one, you could take this as a short, but I would feel more comfortable waiting for price to enter the area and going down to the smaller time frames and looking for confirmation, perhaps the strength indicators, and look for price to start to move away, because we have fresh supply here from about the 145, 52-ish area. And so that would, that looks like a pretty decent area. It's a tiny little one. How big is it? It's really small. It's a little one. Let's see. It's a 15 pip supply, so it's still decent. And you can see that above here there are no wicks. This is kind of release. We go to the 1 minute. I'm not sure if I can see that much data on the 1 minute. Oh, there we can. You can see it even more clarity. This is actually the one that is interesting for us right here. You're probably going to you can see some reactions when price comes here. then price sold off, accumulated, we dumped, and then we started to move away from there. So we have a couple of areas that are interesting here for us. So you could actually, if we just box this whole area up, we'll take this here, we go like that. We go out to the 4 hour, and you could look to sell at the high of this candle here with your stop above those micro supply here at the top, because those are probably going to see some reactions. Or you could wait for confirmation. The reason you have to put your stop like a gaping stop like that is because you don't really know where price is going to stop. But if you let price come up to these areas and kind of feed into them and look for the reactions, then you're getting confirmation, and then you can just sell at market once price starts to do what you are looking for it to do. So there's something going on here. Let's have a look at something else. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Wow, okay, so Bitcoin just dropped off. We had a nice area of demand. It's a little bit accumulated for an extended period of time, not nice, but price reacted there. And we gapped down. So what is it that we're testing? I don't have any data actually. This is like an all-time high. I mean, goodness me. I mean, look at that. Imagine if you'd have got on board there in 2012. Phenomenal. Then just like incredible. I mean, look at that price movement. Just like unbelievable. Just dizzying. So price is reacting there. We gap down from there. But I think it's pretty risky to be short the Bitcoin. But we do have a couple of areas that could be interesting. Last time price came back down to here and tried to fill this gap, we had a pretty good reaction. So we'd probably get an even bigger reaction if you allow price to come a little bit closer to this area just here. Not a very pretty area, and there's really kind of illiquid, which I don't like. So we might have to have a close look. It's not a terribly pretty area. We do have this here. We also have this one here. Just in here, which looks okay. This one's been tested, so you don't want to buy until price comes to at least down here, and then price already kind of fed back down. So I mean, the low of this area is the earliest I would look to buy. Ideally down here at the 37.92. That might be interesting, but I mean, Bitcoin is absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. There was I read in the newspaper here in Denmark. And there was an expert that said if I would have bought Bitcoins in, I think it was 2007, if I would have spent, I think 300 krona, which is about 30 pounds, today I would have 150 million krona, which is about 15 million pounds. So I mean, that just tells you how explosively this asset has been moving. And this is something that I'm also looking quite a lot at. There's a blockchain technology called Ripple, and they have a coin XRP. And XRP's technology, this Ripple, has been adopted by some of the biggest banks in China, and so that should also be affect how aggressively this coin is bought. And so keep your eye on XRP if that's something you're interested in. I wish I had quotes for that. Also in the new platform, the version 2, which is coming out here in a little while, I don't have cryptocurrency data. I'll have to buy that, but I have to. It's so expensive, the data, so I have to wait until I can afford it. So I have to. I mean, the business has to at least go into zero. I don't want to bleed money, and so I have to buy data as I can afford it. And so this is definitely something I'd like to incorporate in the future. But until then, we can perform an analysis on other charting platforms that provide it, like Bitstamp or Kraken, or some of the other ones that provide charting platforms for their cryptocurrencies. But it's a really exciting tendency at the moment. I think everyone is buying cryptocurrencies. Okay, let's have a look at one more. Let's take the Aussie Kiwi. So what do we have here? Our price is moving up on the hourly, on the 4 hourly. And on the daily, we're really racing north. Without the weekly, what are we doing? Okay, well, we react. We're reaching this up here, which is a price level. The price has been back before. You can see it's been back up to here, up into this. So we're actually returning back to this, which is potentially interesting area. Let's just have a look. You can see the where are we? Here. See that we're kind of feeding up into this area here. Not a pretty area. Price kind of moved up. We did have a really nice drop and then a gap down. And so we're currently kind of closing the gap here, and above that we have this, but price has already been back to the area. What we do have is we have this one here, which I like a bit better. Candle to the left, that one, this one here, like so. Just maybe something like that. Up to the weekly. Yeah, so we've actually moved through that area. And so I would actually look to, as a matter of fact, if we zoom in a little here, I would look to sell somewhere in these wicks. You can see that price right accumulated, we sold off, we tested the edge of something before we left. So you could say, okay, we want to take the high of the test, and I'll stop to go a little bit above there. So that would bring us to the 112.71. Did have a nice release here, but on the smaller time frame it's really not pretty. But you could also be buying, and you could look to buy on some of these, maybe the daily pullbacks or the 4-hour pullbacks. Got to find a nice one. There's nothing here that's interesting. This is a little bit too close to price. This looks okay because here we had some highs here and here, and this is the one that kind of broke above those. So we had actually a horizontal trend line break. So market structure failing at around this level here. We really push it, test, no closes above there. And over here, this is pretty close. Let's have a look left even more. Yeah, so this is, where are we? Yeah, so we had this little area of supply here. It's been tested once, twice, and this is the one that took it out. So this is the one that we can target for an entry around here, which is roughly where that is, the 106, the 108.60, 62ish area. That might be worth looking at, but I don't like that actually. I really don't like the way the price kind of just like wriggling sideways like that. But this is fresh demand because it came in at the end of a period of balance in supply and demand, and so that does tell us that this is fresh demand. So there's potentially still orders in here somewhere. Yeah, but I wouldn't be limit ordering that. I would wait, and I would actually look. You can see that I've got an order to buy down here at the low. So price is standing on this, and how far back has price come historically? It's been back to the low of the test. So I'm actually looking to buy just below there, which is really, really far away from price, but it's also a good push lower. If we have a look at the, yeah, we're deeper than the 79. As a matter of fact, that's so far away that I'm just going to remove it. It's too far away to leave in there. So we have that. Not very interesting. This was pretty cool how price came down, accumulated, price went up, tested. So you don't want to be buying for a price any more expensive than the low of the test. Close. If you'd have been patient, oh, I missed the trade. Not really. Got to wait for a couple more weeks, and price comes down, fills the order, and this is where we have the really big major trend shift just here. So this is what you want to look for, stuff like that. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up at that. If you have any questions, please send them in, and in the meantime, have a super week. Thanks for watching.